Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel DataSpeaks. In the previous two videos in for loop, we have covered range, zip, enumerate, data-oriented for loop examples, and loop control using break, continue, and pass. In this video in for loop, specifically last part in for and while loop, I will cover loop else with for loop, nested for loop, and while loop. Let's straight dive into this. Let's continue working and master in for loop and while loop. Typically, else is a conditional where we use else with if and else if. However, in this case, we are using else with the for loop, and we want to ensure that if the for loop doesn't break, else block will be executed. Let's look at a couple of examples and understand in detail. I will create a list here which contains numbers. In this numbers, what I would like to do is I want to find a target value, which is for now, let's say it's 31. And I want to write a for loop just to check if 31 exists in this list or not. So to do that, I will write a for loop that says for each element in numbers if n equals target. At any point while iterating over this entire list, if any point n becomes the target, so 5 is n, 6 is n, 7 is n, as the for loop starts iterating over entire list, at any point if n becomes the target equals 31, then say print the target value was found and the code will break. If it was not found, then I will say else. If the target is not there, it never met the target, then I will say print target, the value of target was not found in the list. That is the core idea behind using else condition with the for loop. If the for loop cannot accomplish or does not break because of this target value, then else condition will have to be executed. Let's run this code and see what code block was executed. So target 31, target, the target value 31 was not found in the list because 31 doesn't exist in this list. How about any number, putting that 45 here? So I will put target to be 45 here, and that target value becomes our new target. And I'm now rerunning the same line of code and see what the result would be for us. Target 45 was found. There you go. So as soon as the target 45 was found, code was broken. The else condition was never executed. That is the idea behind else condition with the for loop. It is really powerful one to find out some values or validate some existence of a value in the list or a data frame or series, whichever source of data you are using. It is really powerful and a useful way of finding out the number or validating the data. Next and last part in the for loop I want to cover is nested for loop. Nested for loop simply means a loop inside another loop. In Python, that means for each iteration in the outer loop, the inner loop runs completely. That means if outer loop has been successfully completed, then the inner loop has been itself completed. So to complete the external or outer loop, inner loop must complete. That is the idea behind for loop. Nested for loop are used when your logic needs to combine or compare or process multiple levels of the data. Couple of examples here. When you're working on matrices or two-dimensional lists that contain rows and columns, then the first outer for loop is going to be for rows and the inner for loop is going to be for columns. Another example can be creating combinations or pairs between two lists. First outer for loop is going to be first list and second inner for loop is going to be for the second list. Another example can be iterating over multiple dimensional data set, such as a list of dictionaries. For the first inner loop is going to be for the dictionary 1 and the second one is going to be for the dictionary 2, performing comparisons across multiple categories. So outer for loop can be for category 1, inner for loop can be for category 2, and so on. There can be more than two for loops in the single statement. So if there are more than one categories, we can keep going inside the multiple levels of the data. So this is a quick example that I'm showing you here. And let's dive into the code examples and let's learn how we can apply for loop and nested for loop for different purposes. Let's take an example of multiplication table from 1 to 3. And I want to say in this one, for I in range of 1 through 4, so 1 included, 4 excluded, I want to write another for loop here inside the outer for loop. This is here called outer for loop. Now I'm writing inner for loop. So here, these are rows and these are column. I'm just naming J. You can name whatever you like to. I can again say 1 to 4. So again, for 1 included, 4 is excluded. So we are sort of multiplying 1 through 3 in this case. And I want to multiply I with J. So each element of I will be multiplied with each element of J. For example, I want to multiply with the 1 of J, 1 of I multiplied by 2 of J, 1 of I multiplied by 3 of J. Likewise, 2 of I multiplied by 1 of J, 2 of I multiplied by 2 of J, 2 of I multiplied by 3 of J, and also 3 of I multiplied by 1 of J, 3 of I multiplied by 2 of J, 3 of I multiplied by 3 of J. This is the idea that we want to have this in place. And what I also want to do on the top of this, I want it to be the tab separated. So I want to say backslash T. That way it will be separated at the tab level. And in the external, I want to also print the empty print statement so that I can get the printing at the level of, first of all, multiplication values, and also I want to simply print the blank statement so that it moves to the next line. The idea behind printing with only open close parentheses is going to be moved to the next line after inner loop finishes. That is the idea behind printing this print statement, and this is going to be the actual table. And when we will print this table, we expect something like this. So we have 1 multiplied by 1 and then some sort of tab, and it's going to be 1 multiplied by 2, some sort of tab, and then 1 multiplied by 3, some sort of tab. So here we are I and J, I and J. So each element of I, first of all, being multiplied with each element of J. So one single element of I is being multiplied with each element of J. Now the next element of I now is being multiplied with the next all the elements of J. So now 2 multiplied by 3. So here 2 multiplied by 2. The logic behind is, first of all, we multiplied one first element of I with each element of J. Then second element of I here with each element of J. Then the third element of I, so third element of I is going to be multiplied with each element of J. So that is the idea behind this. Is what the whatever the result is, this is how the result format is going to look like. So first row is going to be 1, then we will have 2, then we will have 3, and the next is going to be 2, then we will have 4, then we will have 6 if it is correctly executed, then 3, then 3 to the 6, then we'll have 3 3 is 9. So that's what is our expectation from the print statement. That's what is going to be the result. And let's print the statement. So let's erase that. This is just for the demonstration. I'm erasing that. Let's print that. Look at this here. So we have 1 multiplied by 1 is going to be 1, 1 multiplied by 2, 1 multiplied by 3, 2 multiplied by 1, 2 multiplied by 2, 2 multiplied by 3, and 3 multiplied by 1, 3 multiplied by 2, 3 multiplied by 3. That is the idea. And here we have got small matrix of the multiplication from 1 to 3 at the row level and the column level. So that's the idea behind the for loop with the nested for loop here. And let's take another example to have the better understanding about the nested for loop. Let's take an example of couple of colors. So I'm putting colors list here. I will say colors equals, I'll put 3 colors here. First of all, red, I would go blue, and I would go green. In this colors list, I want to say sizes. So just an example. Size here, first size is going to be small, and the second size I want to call medium, and the next one I want to say large. So I want to associate each sizes with the colors. Please pause the video here and try it your own using the same logic that we had earlier here. So what we want to make sure that red goes with all 3 of these sizes, blue goes with all 3 of these sizes, green goes with all 3 of these sizes. Please pause the video here and try it your own, and please put what output you have got in the comments, and I have the solution next, and please feel free to watch the solution and compare with your result. And I'm looking forward to see your comments, what you have found from this for nested for loop. All right, now I hope you have got some results from your practice. Let's try to go and write a nested for loop here with me. Begin with the outer for loop for I, or I can say C in colors, and this is outer for loop. So for loop begins with 4, and then we have a iterable variable C here that goes through all of these individual elements of colors. So I would say each C, each colors in colors, and I would go ahead and write another inner for loop for S in sizes. So for each C in colors, each C in colors with each S in sizes, each elements in sizes. The next thing I would like to do is print C, and I would like dash here and S. That way it will associate each color with each sizes. Red will go SML, blue will go SML, green will go SML. Potentially, the result is going to look something like this as soon as we execute the code. So let's run the code and look at this here. We have got red associated with each elements SML of sizes, blue goes with each element of sizes, green goes with all elements of sizes. So that is the idea. That's the power of utilizing nested for loop to iterate over multiple lists, associating each elements of list 1 with each elements of list 2. So that is the high level idea behind and practical implementation of the for loop, and specifically nested for loop. That's all on the in-depth walkthrough on the for loop. Let's now dive into the while loop and understand what exactly while loop does and how does it help us to dynamically write code in Python. The while loop is best understood as a conditional loop. It keeps repeating an action as long as a specified condition is true. We can think of like a to-do list. Your to-do list says, keep drinking water until your glass is empty. So technically, you do not exactly know how many sips it will take to empty the glass. However, but you will know exactly when to stop drinking, the time that you will stop drinking when the glass is empty. That's what is the representation of the while loop. You will stop the while loop once the condition becomes false. Let's quickly understand how exactly the while loop works. First, we need to look at the condition. At the very first starting point, Python checks if the condition we are providing is true or not. If it is always false from the beginning, code will never be executed. It will not even run. We will run the code, but there will be no output. Second part comes the body. If the condition is true, the code block inside the loop will be executed at one time until the condition stays true. Now, the state update, it is the most important part. Something inside the loop must change every time code gets executed or every single iteration of the loop so that the condition eventually becomes false. And if the condition never becomes false, then code will run infinitely. Python coding will never end. That means until your computer is turned on, code will keep running on the backend infinitely without any end. Now, the repeat. So, after the body of the loop is finished, Python goes back at the top, very first condition, and then it will check again, and it will just keeps repeating the process again and again condition until the condition becomes finally the false. This entire process will repeat until the condition is finally false or condition becomes false. So what technically are difference between while loop and for loop then? For loop, you already know the number of iterations, you already define how many iterations you want to run the code. We have looked at in the for loop, we have said for n in range 1 through 20. We want the code to run 20 times, beginning from 1 up to ending up to 20, 20 excluded. However, here in the while loop, you will go through the process of running the iterations until actually condition becomes false without you knowing how many iterations it will take. While loop will keep updating the condition every single iterations, and it will finally stop running as soon as the condition becomes false. So that is the idea behind using the while loop and for loop for different purposes, whichever the purpose we want to accomplish. Let's go ahead and learn a while loop with some examples and some real world applications so that we can master not only for loop and also the while loop. Let's begin the while loop example with very simple one. I would say counter with one increment. And what I want to do is I want to count until 10. So that's the idea here. And to begin with, we need to initialize a variable, or I would say counter variable here. Counter variable will begin with the counting will begin with 1. And then the next one, the loop will continue while count is less than or equal to 10. So we will begin from 1 and the counter will continue. Loop will continue, the while loop, until the count reaches to 10. And to do that, each time, each iteration, we will be adding 1 to this count. To do that, how we will begin here is we'll say while, same as for, we'll begin with while count is less than or equal to 10. So we have a condition here. We want to make sure that the Python loop breaks when this is no more true. So we want to run the while loop until this condition, the count is less than or equal to 10. We want to run the counter. After that, we want to break the counter. And I will print with the F string, count has reached, and I will say count. And then I would like to add count plus equals 1. So what is happening here in this case? And at the end, I would like to print loop has been completed. Right? So what I want to do here is I have began at count equals 1, and then I want to say while count is less than or equal to 10. Right now it's 1. Now I would, while this is happening, I want to go one step at a time. And each time it increments, I want it to print the count. So when it is at the count 1, I want it to print count has reached 1. As it goes the second loop, because this is still true because it is at 2, so it will be true. It will run again. It will say print the count has reached to 2, count has reached to 3, count has reached to 4, etc. And every time it is reaching to certain count, it will keep adding 1 to that. So count this, as this completes, it will add 1 to 1. It's going to be 2. Then it will rerun this again. Since it is still true, it will then add 1. Then it will make it 3. The count will become 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and so on. As it reaches to 10, then it will just break it, because this condition is no more true as it passes to 10, as it tries to become 11. But 11 is not the condition that we want to state it to be true. That is why the Python loop will stop. So look at this here. At the end, it has started counting from 1. It has gone to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And at the end, after the loop has been completed until 10, then at last we have said loop has been completed. This is very effective way of looping through the data values while certain condition is being true, when you actually do not know what exactly is the limit of data value. You just want the condition to be in place, and you are now safe from the infinite while loop, and you don't have to fall into the trap of Python code executing forever. The second example of while loop I want to show you is sum of positive number until user quits. So what I want to do is I want the user input, and I want it to run the while loop until the user keeps providing the positive numbers. So let's initialize a value. Initialize total to store, right? And then I want to set total in the beginning to be 0. Remember, you need to have a initialized variable to start executing the while loop. You need to begin at somewhere like positive number or 0, whatever you like to. Then what I would like to do here is I want to ask the user to provide user input. So take the user input, and then I want to say num equals, I will say input here, then enter a number, or if you want to quit, you're ready to quit, then type simply q to quit the game, to quit, right? So I want to ask the user to provide his or her input. Now the next thing I want to do is continue looping until the user types q, while num.lower is not equal to, so if it is equal to q, then we are done. We don't want to loop anymore. I want to convert the value to be the integer type, because here we are getting the value from user in the string format. You can actually define here to be integer itself, but you can do later as well, whatever you feel comfortable. So please pause the video and try doing it over here without having to specifically define over here. And I would like to say total plus equals, I want to add the each total values of the integer, the number that user has provided. And I want to say ask for the next input. So what I want to do, as the user keeps providing the number, I want to keep adding the number unless that is the q. If that is q, we're quitting the game. But no more taking the input from user. I want to say again num equals input, and I want to say enter the another number to add, or type q if you like to quit. So I will take that input again, and then we'll do the same thing as the user provides this input. And if that is not q, then we'll take the number, we'll convert that to the integer, and we'll keep adding this to total. And we have initialized 0 because in the beginning we don't have any number to begin with, so it's simply 0. And as soon as the user provides that number, we'll add that, and again we'll take the input from the user, and if that input is not q, then we'll again convert to the number, and then we'll add that to the total. We'll take another input, and we'll keep doing that again and again and again until user says q, or user provides input as q, that means quit in this case. And then at the end, at the last, we will print the total value that user has got while providing numbers. Print total sum of all the numbers you provided is, and we'll provide that to be total. We'll give that f string here so that you don't have to keep comma and so on. If you are not already familiar with the f string, please watch my Python basics, the very first video where I have introduced the f string and print statement with the f string. Here, this is the second example of while loop. Let's run this while loop and see what we are getting here. As soon as I'm executing the code, at the top here, you can already see that it is asking for a number. I will put 50 here. I'll hit enter. It will keep asking the number. I will put 10 here. It will keep asking the number. It will ask me 5. It will ask me 7. And now let's put Q here to quit. If I hit run, it added all the numbers and it gave me the summation of all the values. And as soon as I provided Q, then it ended the execution of the code. Look at this. You have already created a calculator which can add multiple values for you at the same time, and it will give you the total summation of all the values you inserted. So this is another powerful way of utilizing while loop for your dynamic use case of many different applications in Python programming. As I will keep uploading the next videos, please do not forget to check those. I will be using while loop, for loop, and many other, and including conditional, if else conditionals as well in the next videos. Please feel free to check those in my YouTube channel in the playlist of Python basics, and also Python intermediate and advanced as well. For now, this is all on Python for loops and while loop with hands-on examples. Thank you for watching until here, and I have uploaded more videos on Python basics, intermediate, and advanced in my YouTube channel, along with utilizing all of these functions and modules and packages with the data science and machine learning and generative AI large language model projects. So this is going to be a huge learning opportunity. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe and hit that notification button so that as soon as I upload a new video, you will be immediately notified and you will not miss any opportunity to learn from my videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video.